been 15 years, and recalling this still sends chills down my spine. I apologize for my nerves. Back then, I was a young medical student at UNAM, a university in Mexico, where I met Jacqueline. She was everything I ever wanted. Smart, passionate about her studies, and with a faith that could move mountains. We fell in love, got married, and built a life together. A life that was about to turn into a living nightmare. Our story begins on the night we decided to celebrate the completion of our dream home. We threw a massive party, inviting friends and colleagues to revel in our accomplishment. The night was a blur of laughter, alcohol, and music. But as the last guest left and the silence settled in, something felt off. We started hearing odd noises, sounds that didn't belong in our new home. Jacqueline, deeply Catholic, was visibly shaken. She clung to her rosary, praying for peace, but the eerie sounds persisted, echoing through the empty halls. The next morning, I left for work early, my job taking me to the other side of the city, leaving Jacqueline alone in the house. She later told me about a disturbing discovery, a pair of large miner-like boots near the basement door. I used to wear similar boots for my construction work, but these were different, unfamiliar, and left a muddy water puddle on our pristine floor. When I returned home, I found Jacqueline upset. Not just about the boots, but their inexplicable appearance and the mess they made. I tried to convince her they might belong to my employee, Salomon, but deep down, I knew they weren't his. The boots were different from the ones I provided for my team, distinctly so. Baffled and a bit unnerved, Jacqueline threw them out. We thought that was the end of it. The unsettling events in our home escalated, each incident more disturbing than the last. It was as if the very walls of our house were resonating with a dark, unspoken history. One particularly harrowing experience remains etched in my memory. We had attended the baptism of my brother-in-law's son, a joyous occasion marred only by the dread of returning to our haunted home. That night, I was plagued by an excruciating headache and back pain, rendering me unable to partake in the festivities. We returned home sober, with Jacqueline slightly tipsy, and retired to our bedroom, hoping for a peaceful night's rest. Our house had this old wooden staircase that creaked with every step. In the dead of night, those creaks turned into a sinister symphony. I remember being jolted awake by the sound of someone or something ascending the stairs. The creaks grew louder, more deliberate, sending waves of terror through my body. Then a series of loud bangs on our bedroom door, as if someone was trying to break in. Jacqueline woke up abruptly, her eyes wide with fear. In a moment of panic, I remembered the illegal pistol I had acquired from a corrupt police officer. I had bought it as a means of protection against these unexplained intrusions. I grabbed the gun, my heart pounding in my chest, as Jacqueline tried to pull me back, begging me not to open the door. But I had to know. I had to face whatever was terrorizing us. I flung the door open, expecting to confront an intruder, but there was nothing, just the empty, echoing hallway. Then I saw a figure darting down the stairs. In a reflex of fear and defense, I fired 3 shots. The figure tumbled down the stairs, a lifeless heap at the bottom. I turned to Jacqueline, yelling for her to call the police, but when I looked back, the unthinkable happened. The hallway light flickered on, casting an eerie glow on the empty staircase. There was no body, no sign of an intruder, just those damn miner boots, the same ones Jacqueline had thrown out months ago. And now, they were stained with blood. The fear and confusion were overwhelming. Jacqueline, trembling and pale, called for a priest who came and burned the accursed boots. For a while things seemed to calm down, a deceptive lull in the storm that had enveloped our lives. But peace was short-lived. Jacqueline became increasingly nervous, her nights filled with prayers and her days with anxiety. To ease her mind, we decided to have her uncle stay with us. He was a kind soul, paralyzed from a work accident, and we thought his presence would bring some comfort. For a few months, our home returned to a semblance of normalcy, but that tranquility was about to be shattered in the most horrific way imaginable. The illusion of normalcy in our home was shattered on a day I'll never forget. I arrived home from work with my trusted employees, Salomon and another colleague, to find the house plunged into darkness. The only light came from the flicker of a television in a distant room. A sense of unease washed over me as I navigated the dark, silent corridors. In the TV room, a horrifying scene awaited me. There, on the floor, was Jacqueline's uncle, lifeless and out of his wheelchair. My heart sank. I couldn't comprehend what had happened. In a frenzy, I searched for Jacqueline, my mind racing with the worst possibilities. I found her in the dining room, curled up in a corner, sobbing uncontrollably amidst a pool of blood. The terror in her eyes was indescribable. I initially thought someone had broken in and hurt her, but soon realized the blood wasn't hers. In that moment, my world crumbled. I called the police, and they arrived to find a scene of inexplicable tragedy. Jacqueline was rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. She had lost our baby. Her uncle, it turned out, had suffered a fatal heart attack. Jacqueline was placed in intensive care, unresponsive and lost in her own world of grief and shock. After 3 agonizing weeks, she began to show signs of improvement. But the Jacqueline I knew never returned. She was a shell of her former self, her spirit seemingly broken by the events that unfolded in our cursed home. I sought help from psychiatrists and hypnotherapists, hoping to find a way to bring her back. But each session ended in hysteria. Under hypnosis, she'd scream, warning me of a lurking danger, pleading for me to be careful. But she couldn't or wouldn't tell me more. It was as if she was trapped in a perpetual nightmare, one that she couldn't escape even in her waking hours. The strain of these events took its toll on both of us. I was haunted by the thought of what might have happened if I hadn't been home that day with Salomon and my other employee. The Mexican police might have pinned the tragedy on me, blaming me for the death of Jacqueline's uncle and her miscarriage. Now Jacqueline resides in a psychiatric hospital in Guadalajara. I visit her every month, but each visit is a painful reminder of what we've lost. She doesn't recognize me anymore, believing I'm a friend from her past. The connection we once shared, the love that once bound us together, seems to have been erased from her memory. The aftermath of that fateful night left my life in ruins. Jacqueline, the love of my life, now a stranger to me, confined within the walls of a psychiatric hospital. The home we had built with dreams and love now stood as a monument to our nightmare, a constant reminder of the unexplained horrors we endured. The day after the tragic events, exhaustion and a need for closure drove me back to our house. But as I stepped inside, a chilling sight greeted me. The same goddamned boots by the basement door, the ones we had thrown away and burned. Their inexplicable return was the final straw. I closed the door behind me and vowed never to set foot in that house again. I attempted to sell the house, hoping to rid myself of its haunting presence, but the task proved impossible. One interested buyer stayed for a month, only to leave, claiming the house felt cold and lonely, despite never witnessing anything supernatural. The house, it seemed, was imbued with an aura of solitude and despair that repelled anyone who dared to inhabit it. As I shared this story, I didn't expect belief or understanding. It was a burden I needed to lift off my chest, a tale too bizarre and terrifying to keep within. The events that unfolded in that house remain a mystery, one that haunts me to this day. Questions linger in my mind, festering like open wounds. What were those noises that started it all? Who or what did I shoot at that night? And how did the boots return? Most importantly, what happened to Jacqueline in those moments of terror that led to her current state? I'm haunted by the possibility that something malevolent attached itself to our home, to us. Jacqueline's warnings during her therapy sessions, her hysterical pleas for me to be careful, suggest a presence that's still lurking, waiting. But who or what is it, and what does it want? Now, as I live through the days, visiting Jacqueline in a vain attempt to rekindle a spark of recognition, I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, plagued by a paranoia that something from that house might one day come for me. The memories, the fear, the unanswered questions, they cling to me, a specter from a past that refuses to be laid to rest. And so the house remains unsold, standing as a silent testament to our nightmare. Its empty halls and shadowed corners hold secrets that I fear will never be unraveled. Secrets that took everything from me, my love, my future, my peace. All I'm left with are the echoes of a life that once was and the haunting uncertainty of what truly transpired within those cursed walls.